Welcome back to the Completing the Shelf channel here on YouTube. It is time, once again, to go back into the theater, but this time for something not so marvelous. Ha. Ha.
Oh, is that how you feel about this movie?
I didn't say that.
But you hit.
Why would you say no? We're just
we can
not
make
speaking
inferences.
About, we can, but no, this is just not a film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like that's all people ever talk to us about is just, what about Marvel movies? I'm like,
we like a lot of movies, yeah.
Yeah, we'll get into this. Is the first of many recordings that we will review outside of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This, of course, is the biopic, and that is how you pronounce it. For the film Solo, a Star Wars story, starring yours truly, Alden Ehrenreich, Woody Harrelson, Emilia Clarke, Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, aka MC DJ, Thandie Newton, Jonas Suotamo, Paul Bettany, and Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and a very, very, very key but brief segment from Jon Favreau. But yeah,
really,
this is how Solo got here. Oh yeah, he was the voice of one of Woody Harrelson's original bandits. I think he was Rio.
Oh, okay, I got
Four-armed, six-limbed monkey person.
Yeah,
creature.
As I'm listening to him talk, I'm like, oh, who is that? Is that Billy Crystal? I don't know who that is. Very distinctive voice, and there it is.
Jon Favreau, a.k.a. Happy, a.k.a. Chef. Many hats character-wise.
Man, let's review that movie, because I'd be happy to see that again. It's a really good movie.
Chef?
Yeah.
Okay, that's for another time in another episode.
Yeah.
Spock. Eventually this will become just an anthology of Spock and Solo's movie reviews. I think this is what we're turning into in some ways. Eventually we'll talk about non-movie film type things, maybe.
Yeah.
I feel like we're on a good run of just reviewing films.
A Kessel run?
Ha.
Let's get into the plot a little bit.
I'm laughing in honor of Flash 50-Yard Dash, everyone's favorite sloth from Zootopia. That's another meta reference into another film. But yeah, let's discuss Solo. Let's discuss Solo. We're not going to
Speaking of Flash, I just watched Justice League.
Nice.
While I was sick, and no, not nice. But that's another review too.
Being sick is not nice, but seeing Justice League can be nice. When
it was not
all
nice.
right, no. I tried. Back in January of 2017, principal photography began on this film under the direction of Phil Lord and Christopher Miller. 6 months later, after being reportedly fired over creative differences with Lucasfilm, one and only Ron Howard got his first chops at the Star Wars Cinematic Universe. Yes, everyone's favorite kid alongside Andy Griffith, and then later being Richie on Happy Days, and then all of a sudden becoming a film director because I got nothing better to do. And he did some good movies. Some. Apollo 13, Beautiful Mind, Da Vinci Code. Curious George, by the way. He was a producer, not a director.
Well, and Solo, a very interesting movie added to his slate.
Absolutely. It's a different take into the Star Wars world because you think about it and you're like, okay, he's young Han. Where does this fit into the timeline of the plot? Some will say that it is, of course, predating Rogue One. Seems kind of obvious because everything came together in Episode 4 of the canon, a.k.a. A New Hope, a.k.a. the first Star Wars movie. You mean Star Wars 1?
Yeah, it was just named Star Wars. Until they slapped A New Hope onto it.
Those crazy Star Wars. Yes, and they stepped a title and an episode number onto it, and then it got serious, and we moved from there.
Well, this falls before Rogue One, right?
That's what
For sure.
That's what they're telling us. Yes, this effectively falls into the time prior to Rogue One. How far in advance of Rogue One and how far after Episode 3? Is it Revenge of the Sith or Return of the Sith? Oh God,
Revenge of the Sith.
See, that seems redundant now that I think about it. It's Return of the Jedi, Revenge of the Sith. That's why I mixed that up
But
in my head.
Return of the Jedi
It's
was going to be
shameful.
called Revenge of the Jedi, but then Lucas decided that doesn't sound Jedi enough.
That doesn't sound Jedi enough. I'm going to call it Return of the Jedi.
And at the same time, Wrath of Khan was coming out, which was going to be called The Revenge of Khan. So both movies were the Revenge of the Jedi,
Khan!
that
Sorry.
one, and The Revenge of Khan, and both movies decided to jettison those terms out the airlock.
Oh, a very
Little
sci-fi
nerd
term,
trivia.
jettison. I like that. Yeah, like the jettison term. It's a very sci-fi term these days.
And ILM, Lucas's visual effects company, did their
Yep.
first CGI work on any motion picture film on The Wrath of Khan. So there you go. But this is a little wormhole we're falling down, so let's get out of this gravity well and get into the plot. It starts.
Technically speaking, they do end up dealing with gravity wells eventually in this film,
they
but
do.
you first run into young Han Solo on the shipbuilding world of Corellia. That may ring a bell to all of our Star Wars nerddoms out there, because there was a Corellian freighter that made Han very famous.
Indeed.
But orphaned children are made to steal in order to survive. Young Han and his lover, Kira, with a Q, because that's exactly how you would spell it in the universe.
Well, that makes it alien, right?
Sure. It doesn't make it Terran, that's for sure.
Is there an apostrophe in there? I'm sure
I think there is.
Yeah.
Yep. Kira. Q-I apostrophe R-A.
There you go.
Kira, played by Emilia
space
Clarke,
woman.
a.k.a. Daenerys Targaryen, a.k.a. She's almost as old. Actually, she is as old as us. That's weird. She looks much younger. Good genes.
Hollywood.
Anyway. Sorry. Yes, Daenerys Targaryen is in the Star Wars universe because we, of course, need to give her more money and more work.
She did a good job.
Not saying she's not qualified. No. Let's not say that. I'm just saying I'd like a slice of the pie at some point. I could have played a good Kira.
I mean, you are a company man, so get in that pie.
Da-na-na, da-na-na. A very wide company at that.
I see what you
That
did there.
reference of company man comes from the fantasy focused football podcast, the 06010. Whenever they're like plugging their like own columns or another show on the network, or mentioning that I'm going to watch Monday Night Football on ESPN because I am a company man, and then the Sports Center drop comes in. It's just an homage to those sports things, as I am a fellow company man, as ESPN is owned by the Walt Disney Company, much like Lucasfilm is owned by the Walt Disney Company.
They own everything.
Anyway, again, let's get out of this gravity well. Holy crap. This is a movie we're talking about.
Let's take a speeder through this. So they're on the planet. Han.
Corellia.
He doesn't have a last name yet.
Nope, she's just Kira. Neither does Han,
He doesn't
technically.
either,
And then
yeah.
we find out he gets assigned a last name by the Imperial Navy because that's the only way for Han to eventually find his way back into the heart and mind of his star-crossed lover, Kira. All this is they're trying to get off of Corellia by bribing Imperial officers with, no, it's not unobtainium, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry. It is coaxium, fuel for hyperspace travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're just trying to like bribe them by passing that on so that way you can get off of Corellia, which is just a dump because all they do are build ships and then low lives and criminals and not so sunny happiness going on there.
Yeah. Much of the Star Wars universe is in human trafficking and in slavery, and it's a despicable place except for a few lucky people.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah, before human rights, I guess, or terror
Yeah,
rights.
sure. Or Martin Luther King Jr. Probably If they had Martin Luther King Jr., all of this would have been solved.
The closest
Clearly.
to Martin Luther King Jr. is their droid
Chewbacca.
in this film. Well, maybe,
No.
yeah, sure. And the drill, too.
There is a droid, a very popular droid whose name I love, but it's kind of an homage to somewhat nerding gamer culture. We'll get into that in a minute. Han has been expelled from Flight Academy, of course, for insubordination because Han beats to his own drum and is a bit of a solo act. He eventually, while serving as an infantryman during a battle on an unknown planet, encounters a gang of imposters posing as Imperial soldiers, because that makes them imposters. Yeah, because they're posing as other people. That's why you get that term. Led by a man named Tobias Beckett, a.k.a. Woody Harrelson.
He's great.
Yes. He tries to blackmail them into taking him with them. Unfortunately, Beckham, still posing as an Imperial officer, has him arrested for desertion and thrown into prison. Eventually, that prison is a pit where he's supposed to be fed to a beast. Welcome in everyone's favorite Wookiee, Chewbacca. Somehow, able to speak Wookiee, Han persuades his furry beast friend to help them work together to escape their confinement. Beckett somehow decides to have a change of heart and be like, pretty much want the Wookiee, but I probably should have to take the human too. So they get a package deal and get Han and Chewie into this gang of no good peoples. They eventually leave this battle-infested planet, end up heading to a planet called Vandor, where they have to sail a shipment of, you guessed it, coaxium. Plan goes south when another gang, these are people known as the Clown Riders, showed up with their leader, Enfys Nest, which makes me hear empty nest, but bad wordplay. He loses two of his crew members, the aforementioned Rio, a.k.a. Jon Favreau, and his love interest, Thandie Newton, and, of course, the destruction of the coaxium, which they were so desperately trying to steal, a very volatile and explosive element in and of itself. He was ordered to steal this shipment for a high-ranking crime boss in the Crimson Dawn Syndicate.
The Vision.
Which, yes, indeed. Dryden Voss, a.k.a. Vision, right? A.k.a. Paul Bettany.
I didn't know he was in this movie, so I'm like, oh, okay.
Vision? You're alive! Hooray!
He went to another reality.
Woohoo! And Grimace is standing behind him looking for a stone. Anyway, Han and Chewie volunteer to help them steal another shipment to repay the debt because that's all of a sudden the honest thing to do. Stumbling into Dryden Voss's yacht to hatch this plan, he of course runs into his star-crossed lover, who has joined the Crimson Dawn and become Voss's top lieutenant. Of course, Han suggests risking to steal the unrefined coaxium rather than refined coaxium because that's how everybody wants it, from the mines on the planet Kessel. Yes, that Kessel. You're catching on now quickly, aren't you, people?
Yes.
Voss improves but insists that Kira is accompanying them, so there's no funny business. She leads them to Lando Calrissian, an accomplished smuggler and pilot, and a gambler and a cheater.
Very charming.
They play a game of sabacc, who I guess it's somewhere between blackjack and poker. Eventually, the terms of the bet turn into Lando's ship, a mysterious ship we don't really know about yet. Eventually, conversations after the game of sabacc, Lando agrees to go on the mission in exchange for, of course, some cheddar. And then we meet Lando's droid co-pilot L337, which, if you read it out, says yes.
Elite.
Short for elite. Short for my skills are so elite, you noob.
She was pretty elite.
She was. Eventually, the team boards a ship known as the Millennium Falcon. Dun, dun, dun. But it's not the Millennium Falcon we first know and love because it hasn't quite gone through Han's own special trips and modifications and adjustments. It's still under Lando's control. It's still Lando's ship. And it's got Lando's features like a wet bar. Don't really see Han using the wet bar all that much, but, to each his own. L3 holds a navigational computer of the entire universe. But they get to Kessel, of course, because that's where they have to go. L3 is on this mission, of course, and throughout the confusion to steal the consignment of coaxium, which they eventually do get to do, Chewie finds some long-lost family members. L3 practically dies, but
after freeing all the droids.
Yes, you beat me to the punch. She inspires a revolution of all the droids, inspiring everything to be freed and released from its prisonal, prisonal. No, that's not the word. Servitude of the prisoners and workers and slaves there on the planet Kessel, mining all this coaxium for evil peoples. But all of a sudden, Han has the brilliant idea to take L3's brain, in a sense, all of her navigational computers and circuitry, and hotwire it into the Millennium Falcon. Because there's no one else to pilot the ship because Lando's too distraught over losing his robot girlfriend. Han decides, well, I'm the greatest pilot I know. I'm going to go straight into the belly of the beast because no one else has ever tried it, and there's an Imperial blockade all of a sudden chilling with me, and I got a deuce. So, eventually, the Falcon, although very badly damaged, lands on their planet, which they intended to meet up with Dryden Voss once they refined this said coaxium. But of course, who else would be there but Enfys Nest
and the pirates,
who's been tracking the team. Yes, the Cloud Rider pirate peoples who've been tracking them since their run-in on Vandor, where there was that brief scene that Chewie almost died, but there would be far too much uproar in the world to kill Chewie off, and of course he's been in how many movies now?
Yeah.
Duh! He would not be killed so easily. He's a Wookiee.
And man, by the time The Last Jedi is around, man, this guy is old.
Got to be over 200 years old.
Well, wasn't he 290 in this movie?
I thought he was 190.
Okay, 190. Okay.
He's old.
Yeah.
That's all we know.
Yeah. And he was in, well, of course he was in the prequels too. But briefly. Continue, sir.
I'd like to try to figure out and remember how the pieces of the puzzle ended up with him leaving Kashyyyk and all of a sudden being in Imperial control in a prison, but whatever.
Well, they said that all the Wookiees were turned into slaves by the Empire.
Aha! Thank you, sir. I teed you up for that. You're welcome.
Mm-hmm. So, on the planet, and Enfys Nest is there, and they're like, whoa, we can wait it out, or we can make a deal, because you're going to just get killed by the Vision, because they're just going to want the...
No, will you stop calling them the Vision?
Oh.
You're crossing streams again, man.
Jarvis.
He is Jarvis, a.k.a. Vision, but in this particular film, he is Dryden Voss, a member of the Crimson Dawn crime syndicate, which we'll get into them in a second. But yeah, eventually they make a deal with Enfys, it seems, to trick Crimson Dawn and Voss. Of course, having anticipated or making moves and counter moves.
Woody Harrelson decides, I'm out.
Well, even before then, Lando just dips in the Falcon.
Yeah.
Which was a hilarious scene.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're just like, well, that's just Lando being Lando, but at the same time, Han is posing like, I've got a bunch of armed dudes who'll kick your lily white butts. And all of a sudden, Falcon's gone. I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to stand back and shut up. Turns out, Enfys and their crew are not really the pirates they say they are, but they are rebels, trying to halt the syndicates and the Empire from gaining more traction in the galaxy.
And this is when I got really interested in the film, because it's like the beginning of the rebellion here. Yeah.
So yes, moves and counter moves, eventually having Kira and Han and Voss all in this lovely battle. Kira turns on Voss, killing him, sending Han after Beckett, who is running away with the coaxium. And then, plot twist, yeah, Darth Maul shows back up. What?
Well, half
but
of
he's
Darth
dead!
Maul. Half of him, yes.
He's supposed to be dead! You see him from the waist up, folks. Let's just...
No, you see his legs and they're mechanical.
Yeah, well, they're not his legs. That's what I said. Him from the waist up, but robot from the waist down. See? Anyway, yes. He is back. He is alive because the dark side of the Force is very strong.
It's all explained in Star Wars, the Clone Wars TV show, which I have not really watched, but I know he came back in that. And so it's really interesting that the films are now pulling from the cartoons.
Right. It's all considered part of canon, which
it is,
for those folks who don't watch the TV shows or the animated series, you'd have never know they'd existed. But that's your problem.
Netflix.
Get it on the Netflix, y'all. So eventually, we find out that Kira is not on the side of who we think she is, and she is with the dark side. And she must go meet Darth Maul on a faraway planet, and all of a sudden, the great space yacht that was once Dryden Voss's flies away, and Han and Chewie leave for, where else? Tatooine. Eventually, Han gets back the Falcon, beating him in another game of Sabacc, which I gotta learn how to play Sabacc. That seems like how you get cool space ships and stuff.
Only if you cheat.
I don't know what I've been trying to gamble in. Oh, well, no. Remember, Han, well, yeah, you need to cheat to win. You're right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but
the end.
Lando cheated the first time, so it's even now.
Yeah, that seems fair. So we can get into another episode of how to play Sabacc. There are suits and 15 cards in a suit. So it's 12 more cards.
We could talk about Cybok, Spock's half-brother. Why don't we talk about what we like?
Yeah, let's get into that segment. What did we like? I like Chewbacca.
Who doesn't?
There are people who don't like Chewbacca, and
the
we're not
dead
friends
people
with him.
on that planet for sure that he ate.
Yeah, that was part of them. Yeah, I think that's part of them. But I definitely enjoyed the story as it was written by the Kasdans, Lawrence and Jonathan. Pretty sure they're father and son. And I think it was a wonderful way to help us understand a little bit more of Han being Han. But I feel like there are questions left unanswered of what happens to Han and Kira. Does he just give up on her and all of a sudden get the hots for Leia? And where does that sea change happen? Because he seems pretty hot for her and pretty chasing her all over the galaxy-esque. So, I don't know. When does that sea change happen?
Yeah, it's set up to either be a good conclusion to the Han story until he connects with Luke and all of them in A New Hope. But it also is set up to be, a little series. I could see another movie. Do I want another one? Well, let me give my context for how I feel about the movie.
Okay.
I didn't want the movie. When I heard they're making a Han Solo prequel, I'm like, oh, please. Han Solo is a character you don't want to know a lot about because that's part of his mystique. He's kind of this cool, roguish, good guy, bad guy, ruffian, trickster.
Scruffy nerve herder.
Scruffy nerve herder, yeah. I loved this movie. I had so much fun, and I was so surprised by it. I don't understand why it has the lowest Rotten Tomato score of any Star Wars movie. I don't get it.
Well, I think it's because I think there is some bit of nerd backlash that it was because Ron Howard directed it, not Lord and Miller.
Yeah, but if you take that away, if you just watch the film as it is, it's really fun. It feels like a Star Wars movie. The score is good. John Williams made the Han theme, and then another composer did the rest of it. But, oh, gosh, what a good movie. So fun. And this is from a guy that did not even want to see this. I only saw it for my co-host here, so we could talk about it.
Oh. You did all this for me?
Only for you, yeah.
Little old me.
My co-pilot.
I think one of my favorite quotes from the film is an homage to Episode 5. Lando Calrissian saying, "I hate you. I know."
I love it. Yeah, all the fan servicey things and the setups for later Han character were perfect to me. Like, I wasn't bothered by them. Oh, I see what they're doing. Like, Han shot first in this film.
Yes.
There's no doubt about it. There's not going to be editing to mess this up. I think it reclaimed that part of Han that was ruined in the redone trilogy. So it's a good movie. And, I was worried about anyone else being able to carry the charisma of Harrison Ford. What do you think about Alden Ehrenreich?
Alden Ehrenreich.
Ehrenreich. There you go.
Alden Ehrenreich. For someone who is kind of virtually in film an unknown to this point, unless you saw Hail Caesar or Blue Jasmine, because everybody went out to go see those.
Yeah.
I think he came out swinging. I'm not going to say he kind of stole the show, but I think he did a very, very good job in bringing young Han to the screen. This was a story about young Han. This is not a story about the chiseled Harrison Ford Han that we knew from 1977 to the modern day. This is about young Han, and I needed a young actor to do that. And I think Alden Ehrenreich was the correct choice.
Yeah, his charisma and charm was up there with Harrison Ford.
Mm-hmm.
Could it be replicated in another role? Maybe not. But I bought him completely as a Han Solo character. And he was a little more innocent, a little more naive, which was really fun to see. And sad to see him grow into the hardened bad guy, as Kira called him. You're the good guy. He's like, no, I'm a bad guy. He's trying to put up this front. So that was
I think
fun.
that's always like a seminal theme of Han. Is just like he's trying to show this outer rugged toughness and cruelty, but inside he's desperately trying to do the right thing and be lovable.
Can't help himself just to do the right thing either.
Right. See Episode 4. Yeah.
Like when he goes to save Lando and L3, that was the bad move on a business level, but it was a good move for the good guy, and he's a good guy.
He's a good guy.
He can't help it. So, yeah, I really think this film got the Han character very, very well. And I think it enriches my later viewings. I can't wait to watch Star Wars again.
Yes. Mm-hmm. I agree.
It only makes the character better.
To this point, as of production and recording of our episode on June 1, a week since its release, the movie has grossed $115 million domestically, $197.5 million worldwide, which begs the question, will it get to its $250 million budget and break it, of a break even in terms of monies for the studio? Would you say that opening weekend number of $84 million was disappointing in its expectation?
Definitely disappointing, especially when you consider that being a 3-day weekend.
Mm-hmm.
A holiday weekend. That should have been over $100 million. And it barely got to 84. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh, really my fears are correct. This isn't good. No, it is good.
Nope. I'll let you write your own story.
It is good.
It certainly didn't help that the only other non-canon or non-episodical anthology movie against it was Rogue One. Rogue One coming out the week before Christmas, opening to almost double the $84 million at $155 million, with I think it was 170 fewer screens in theaters, which is insane.
Yeah, but I think that movie might have burned people to even try Solo. Because though that movie has a great third act, it's very choppy, and both of these films had behind-the-camera troubles, which this film felt cohesive. It felt like a very cohesive plot, Rogue One did not.
Ron Howard, once you get him behind the camera, will not let it be something that's uncohesive.
But still,
or broken up.
The majority of the film was photographed before he stepped in, and a different tone. They were going to take a darker tone. You could see that in the military aspect when he's in the trenches. And if they stayed there too long, it would have felt wrong. But man, it was just a fun, light movie with emotions, people dying, and you're empathetic with them. But man, it was Star Wars. It was a Star Wars movie.
Through and through. Are we shelving it?
I think we are.
Okay, it's time to shelve it. This portion of our podcast brought to you once again by Krelm Toothpaste. But it doesn't fight the Empire, it fights communism. Krelm Toothpaste. Fighting communism in black for over 70 years. Krelm Toothpaste. Buy it at your local CVS, Walgreens, and AutoZone. This belongs to me, and it's my opinion. You can provide feedback, and we'll tell you how to provide feedback in a moment, but this is a second shelf.
Tell me why.
Because my expectations for this film were not very high, and I wasn't blown away. I was entertained, I was intrigued, and I enjoyed it. But I didn't enjoy it to the effect of how much I enjoyed Infinity War. I didn't enjoy it to the effect to the original Avengers film. And I'm sad to kind of compare that, because that's really all I've given you folks to compare this to this point. But I think when I look back at the rewatchable films and some of the top 10 films that I've kind of been laying out on our Facebook page of impactful films in my life, I don't feel that Solo can really get into that narrative of things that will change my life. I'm not saying I don't like the movie. It's on the second shelf, folks.
Which means it's great. It's a great movie.
Correct. It doesn't get over the hump of getting to that top shelf where there are so many other fantastic films. And you know where to find them. Play on title. Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. Sorry.
I saw the trailer for the second one. That looked really good.
Yes. I'm sure that you probably saw that before seeing this movie.
I did.
Anyway, second shelf for me. Let's say who?
So I just saw it like an hour ago. So
wow, recency bias.
Yeah. Man, I was like, man, top shelf. But then hearing your explanation, you're right. It doesn't fall into that impactful, like lifelong, life-altering kind of film. And but I can't find faults with it. Like thinking over it, I'm like, I can't find anything wrong with it. Even the music was perfectly done.
I agree.
Darth Maul's theme, the Duel of Fates, came in there perfectly, and it came out. It didn't feel forced. It was so good.
I am Groot. I'm sorry, I agree.
Oh, okay. The only part that seemed forced was when Lando said, "Oh, that pulls me out of the Star Wars universe." But anyway, it's definitely a second shelf. Definitely a second shelf. I can't fault it.
I can't fault it.
You're right. I think it doesn't leave an impact as strong as some of the other films that we've talked about. And I think you could have this on in the background and just enjoy it without really paying attention to it.
Especially when you compare it to seeing the impact of what The Last Jedi did and how great of a film that was, explaining that portion of where they are in the story.
Maybe we should review that sometime.
We will. I'm sure we'll get into the previous 9 movies of the Star Wars cinematic universe. And just, can we just spend 20 minutes ripping Jar Jar Binks? Is that like cool with everyone? Cool. All right. Nice. But we both agree this is a second shelf film.
Absolutely.
First and foremost, we'd like to thank you for watching this episode of Completing the Shelf, a cinematic review of Solo, a Star Wars story. Special shout out to Elizabeth Mazzella for a wonderful birthday present that has allowed us to get better recording materials for yours truly.
Yeah, you sound great.
Special thanks to Yeti, not Yeti, Blue microphones. I don't know why I called it Yeti.
I have a Yeti.
That's right, you have a Yeti. I think it's because it's from the company called Ice, and I think of ice and Yetis and abominables, and I don't know. Who knows? But yes, special shout out to her for the upgrade in the recording equipment here on my end. So if you understand me more, I'm sorry. If you understand me less, you're welcome. But I don't think that's an issue.
No.
Of course, as I mentioned, leave your feedback in the comments section below. Please click subscribe here on our YouTube. Share this on Facebook. Share this on the Twitterverse. Share this wherever you want to have people learn about our wonderful entertainment offering.
And next time, I think we'll be talking about something pretty incredible.
Indeed. Our series on Pixar films will be underway in a matter of weeks as we anticipate the upcoming release of The Incredibles 2 in theaters, I think in 2 weeks from now, if not less.
June 15th.
Yes, indeed. 2 weeks from our recording date today. And please, no capes while enjoying the Completing the Shelf channel. But we'll see you back here on the shelf.